Letter the Seventh of Love and Friendship by Jane Austen. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Love and Friendship. Letter the Seventh. Laura to Mary Ann.
We remained but a few days after our marriage, in the Vale of Risqué. After taking an affecting farewell of my father, my mother, and my Isabel, I accompanied Edward to his aunt's in Middlesex. Philippa received us both with every expression of affectionate love. My arrival was indeed a most agreeable surprise to her, as she had not only been totally ignorant of my marriage with her nephew, but had never even had the slightest idea of there being such a person in the world. Augusta, the sister of Edward, was on a visit to her when we arrived. I found her exactly what her brother had described her to be, of the middle size. She received me with equal surprise, though not with equal cordiality, as Philippa. There was a disagreeable coldness and forbidding reserve in her reception of me, which was equally distressing and unexpected. None of that interesting sensibility or amiable sympathy in her manners and address to me when we first met, which should have distinguished our introduction to each other. Her language was neither warm nor affectionate. Her expressions of regard were neither animated nor cordial. Her arms were not open to receive me to her heart, though my own were extended to press her to mine. A short conversation between Augusta and her brother, which I accidentally overheard, increased my dislike to her, and convinced me that her heart was no more formed for the soft ties of love than for the endearing intercourse of friendship.
"But do you think that my father will ever be reconciled to this imprudent connection?"
said Augusta.
"Augusta,"
replied the noble youth,
"I thought you had a better opinion of me, than to imagine I would so abjectly degrade myself as to consider my father's concurrence in any of my affairs, either of consequence or concern to me. Tell me, Augusta, with sincerity, did you ever know me consult his inclinations, or follow his advice in the least trifling particular since the age of 15?
"Edward,"
replied she,
"you are surely too diffident in your own praise. Since you were 15 only, my dear brother, since you were 5 years old, I entirely acquit you of ever having willingly contributed to the satisfaction of your father. But still, I am not without apprehensions of your being shortly obliged to degrade yourself in your own eyes by seeking a support for your wife in the generosity of Sir Edward."
"Never, never, Augusta, will I so demean myself,"
said Edward.
"Support! What support will Laura want which she can receive from him?"
"Only those very insignificant ones of victuals and drink,"
answered she.
"Victuals and drink!"
replied my husband in a most nobly contemptuous manner.
"And dost thou then imagine that there is no other support for an exalted mind, such as is my Laura's, than the mean and indelicate employment of eating and drinking?"
"None that I know of so efficacious,"
returned Augusta.
"And did you then never feel the pleasing pangs of love, Augusta?"
replied my Edward.
"Does it appear impossible to your vile and corrupted palate to exist on love? Can you not conceive the luxury of living in every distress that poverty can inflict with the object of your tenderest affection?"
"You are too ridiculous,"
said Augusta,
"to argue with. Perhaps, however, you may in time be convinced that—"
Here I was prevented from hearing the remainder of her speech by the appearance of a very handsome young woman, who was ushered into the room at the door of which I had been listening. On hearing her announced by the name of
Lady Dorothea,
I instantly quitted my post and followed her into the parlour, for I well remembered that she was the lady proposed as a wife for my Edward by the cruel and unrelenting baronet. Although Lady Dorothea's visit was nominally to Philippa and Augusta, yet I have some reason to imagine that, acquainted with the marriage and arrival of Edward, to see me was a principal motive to it. I soon perceived that though lovely and elegant in her person, and though easy and polite in her address, she was of that inferior order of beings with regard to delicate feeling, tender sentiments, and refined sensibility, of which Augusta was one. She stayed but half an hour, and neither in the course of her visit confided to me any of her secret thoughts, nor requested me to confide in her any of mine. You will easily imagine, therefore, my dear Marian, that I could not feel any ardent affection or very sincere attachment for Lady Dorothea. Adieu, Laura.
End of letter the 7th.